After having been brutally plastered across the internet pretty much a month before it was meant to be unveiled, the iPhone 7 is now here. Some people are amazed, some people are enraged, but let's cut the chase. Welcome to my full review. So there is no doubt that the iPhone 7 is a crucial smartphone for Apple. With Samsung throwing out killer phone after killer phone, with companies like OnePlus and Huawei coming out of the blue with amazing smartphones, there is no more important time for them to perform. So let's get right into it. Visually speaking, it's not changed too much from the iPhone 6. Now, whilst the internet is pretty much in uproar about it, that's not really a bad thing. It feels comfortable in the hand. The curved edges actually feel quite nice compared to my Galaxy S7 Edge. It's not paper thin or even particularly light, but the fact that it's just smooth all the way around makes it fit very nicely in the hands. You can see the silver one I've got here has a nice matte finish, it doesn't attract fingerprints, and it's strong, it's quite resistant against scratches. And on the subject of durability, we've got water and dust resistance. Now the home button has been totally redesigned. It uses vibration instead of physically clicking in, but it feels great. Now the internet has been up in arms about how Apple has ditched the 3.5mm headphone jack. And yeah, it's a bit of an inconvenience, but I don't think it's a deal breaker. They do provide an adapter so you can fit any headphone you want in, and they also provide AirPods which already have a lightning connector. So the display is a 4.7-inch 750x1334 resolution, which gives you a PPI of 326. Now it's definitely not the sharpest screen out there. If you move up close, if you inspect text closely, you can tell the difference easily between this and a Galaxy S7 Edge. On top of that, the colours are slightly on the muted side in comparison, but some would say it's a more natural look, so that's open to preference. What is good though is that the screen is bright enough to see even in broad daylight, which even in this day and age is something that not all flagship smartphones can boast, and we've got an oleophobic coating which resists fingerprints. So then it comes to software, and things get quite interesting here. iOS 10 is faster and better than ever. It excels in fluidity and the phone just will not lag. It's bright, colourful and clean at the same time. Visually speaking, pretty much nothing has changed since iOS 9. Everything still opens up as an individual application, whether it's the weather, the news, or the settings, and in some ways it feels a bit archaic. Everything feels just a little bit disjointed and it takes way too long to do simple tasks like change a wallpaper. On the other hand, with the iOS 10 update, 3D Touch is now integrated seamlessly. It actually adds tons of functionality and things that you just could not do before, and it really gives it a reason to exist. There's tons of other little nifty tricks they've added as well, which make the phone seem just a little bit more intelligent. And speaking of intelligence, Siri has upped its game. It now integrates better with third-party apps, things like Google Maps, things like Uber, and you can even give it complex commands like show me photos I've taken recently which have grass in them, and it can understand them. Another example is that by checking one box, the music app will start to analyze the songs you listen to and delete the ones it doesn't think you're interested in anymore. To make one thing clear, this is the most powerful iPhone ever created. With Apple's A10 chip and 2GB of RAM, it handles the user interface better than ever. In fact, I even tried to make this thing lag and I just couldn't. The higher amount of RAM makes multitasking a breeze, and the increased processing power makes flicking through it a buttery smooth experience. And on the subject of performance, we've obviously got games, and aside from 2 crashes, it's been a faultless experience. The games all run very smoothly, all seem very optimized for the iPhone. They look fantastic too, even though this isn't the sharpest phone display out there. And it's not much of a surprise really. We've got Apple's signature optimization, we've got a powerful processor under the hood, and relatively speaking, not that many pixels to push. And it's great to hold, it fits comfortably in the hand, and it doesn't feel like it's gonna slip, all useful stuff while you're gaming. But unfortunately it does get rather toasty. So the speakers on the iPhone 7 are spectacular. It's got a stereo speaker, so it's got one on the top and then one on the bottom, and the sound is full, rich and loud. As far as phone speakers go, they're pretty bassy too, and my suspicion is they've managed to make them this good because of that removal of the headphone jack. So the battery has a capacity of 1960 mAh, which to most Android users probably sounds paltry, but with the iPhone 7's optimization and lower power components, it gets you through one day of heavy usage, but not much more. On paper, the iPhone 7's camera looks good, but those specifications are not doing it any justice whatsoever. It's got a 12-megapixel sensor and an f1.8 aperture, and this translates to awesome detail. You can display these photos on a 50-inch television and they'll still look sharp. It comes into its own when it comes to macro shots. You can get very close to objects and detail remains intact. The colours of the photos are vibrant and punchy, and even in lower lighting conditions, detail is still retained. The fast shutter time means that you don't get too much blur and you don't have to worry about waving it around. The front camera has also been redesigned, and with a 7 megapixel camera, it's one of the most detailed front cameras on any flagship smartphone out there. So in my testing, the only real place it fell down was in HDR environments where there's lots of dark shadows and also lots of bright lights. It tends to either underexpose quite heavily or overexpose, and these 4 shots you're seeing here are all me standing in exactly the same spot at exactly the same time, and they look so different. You'll be glad to know that it also shoots 4K video at 30 frames per second. And it's really steady. We've got optical image stabilization built in, but the only thing I would say is it's just a tiny bit washed out. It has almost like a faded grey look to it. So there we go guys, that is the iPhone 7. Whilst from the outside it may look like not much has changed since its predecessors, this is truly a next generation product. It can easily hold its own against any other flagship out there in terms of its performance, its camera, its audio. And with iOS 10, Apple has started to differentiate themselves further, adding functionality that even those Android phones can't do. The iPhone 7 does however have a weakness in that its resolution at 326 ppi is far lower than smartphones these days which have over 500. So if you can overlook that, then the iPhone 7 is a spectacular smartphone. Thanks a lot for watching, I'm Mr. Who's the Boss, and I'm signing out.